Thank you, Ritesh Prabhu and Pawan Prabhuji and Vishwanath Prabhu for facilitating this chanting today in this auspicious month of Kartik. Welcome, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamanniti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, so we are continuing our prayers. Start our day with prayers. So this last few weeks we've been singing from Prarthana, which literally means prayers, by our Acharya Shri Das Thakur, who is our prayer Acharya, we can say, Vandanam, because he has written such wonderful prayers which have been sung by all our predecessor Acharyas. So then last week we were singing the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And with the mercy of the Vaishnavas, like I said, the mercy flows in descending order from the Lord, to his pure devotees. And after Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Rupa Goswami, and all the other Vaishnavas, with their mercy, we are able to see the holy Dham. So this week we will sing another beautiful prayer by Shri Narottam Das Thakur, as we are now officially into the second week of Kartik. With the mercy of all the Vaishnavas last week, we are able to come to Vrindavan Dham. So we will sing glories of Shri Vrindavan Dham through this very beautiful prayer called Vrindavan Ramyasthana, which is also part of the Prarthana collection by Shri Narottam Das Thakur, which glorifies the spiritual opulence of Shri Vrindavan Dham. So we see Vrindavan Dham through the eyes of our Acharyas, and with their mercy is when the doors, the curtains of Maya open, and then we are able to see Vrindavan as it is. Okay, so with that, let's sing this very, very wonderful and beautiful prayer. Vrindavan Ramyasthana Divya Chintamani Dhama Ratana Mandira Manohara Abrita Kalindi Nire Rajahamsa Kili Kare ताहे शोभे कमाल तारमध्ये हेमापीठ अष्टदले बेष्टित अष्टदले प्रधान नायिका तारमध्ये रत्नासने बशियाचे दुई जाने श्याम संगे सुंदरी राधिका ओ रूपलावण्य राशि आमिया परिचय खासी हास्य परिहास संभाषणे नरोत्तम दास कोय नित्य लीला सुख मोय सदाई स्फुरुक मोर माने वृंदावन रम्य स्थान दिव्य चिंतामणि धाम रतन मंदिर मनोहरा अमृत कालिंदी नीरे राजहंसा केली करे ताहे शोभे कनक कमाल हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री वृंदावन रम्य स्थान प्रार्थना की जय। श्री नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर की जय। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay. Anybody would like to read the translation? Okay. Meenakshi Moini will do it.
Beautiful Vrindavan is filled with Chintamani gems and many jewel palaces and temples. Many regal swans play in the waters of Yamuna, and in those waters a splendid golden lotus flower grows. In the middle of that lotus is a golden place surrounded by 8 petals. On these 8 petals, the 8 principal gopis reside, and in the center, Lord Shyamasundar and beautiful Srimati Radharani sit on a jewel throne. The great beauty of the divine couple and their charming joking and laughter continually showers nectar everywhere. Narottam Das says, I pray that these blissful, eternal, transcendental pastimes of the divine couple may be always manifested in my heart. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Such a wonderful Shruti he's praying for, and like we said, this is all obtained through the mercy of our Acharyas, our Guru Parampara. So nicely these things are connecting well. We have been singing these prayers, and with the mercy of the Vaishnavas last week, we are able to get to Vrindavan Dham and see Vrindavan as it is. And yeah, I think I heard from Vishwanath Prabhu yesterday, he is going to Vrindavan. It's perfect with the association of Vaishnavas like Vishwanath Prabhu, who starts this call every single morning without fail at 4:30 sharp, or sometimes even before that. So we are so happy that he will be in Vrindavan Dham praying for all of us. Please take our prayers also with you, Vishwanath Prabhu, when you go there tomorrow. He's going to Vrindavan in India. Of course, going to New Vrindavan here, which is 3.5 hours away from Cincinnati, is also Vrindavan only. It's not different from Vrindavan, as Srila Prabhupada said. So for all of us who could not go to Vrindavan in India this Kartik, we should try to go to New Vrindavan Dham. But yeah, we are grateful that Vishwanath Prabhu will be going there, and he will pray for all of us that we may continue to take part in this wonderful process of bhakti, sadhana bhakti that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Waking up every morning, doing these prayers, doing our morning japa, sangha. So we maybe continue to do this, not just in this month of Kartik, but throughout. So that should be our humble attempt. And with sincerity, we can do that. So this is a practice, 30 days of practice. So with this practice, we can become perfect. Okay, so with that, let's continue with Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Chapter 45 is on, we are on, which is talking about the mode of book distribution that Prabhupada is asking his devotees to continue. Please distribute these books. And we saw yesterday how their enthusiasm and energy is increasing day by day with their sincerity. And they're sincere to not just keep this message to themselves, but go out and share what the treasure that they have received from Srila Prabhupada. And this treasure, it is Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It only increases day by day, and it increases more when we share. The love increases more when we share. So like that, that is their mood of all these disciples in California, especially in San Francisco, LA, which is where the the transcendental explosion of book distribution started. And they are going out to shopping malls, centers, and public places, giving out books to everybody, pious, impious, doesn't matter, rich or poor, young or old, black or white. Everybody is equally eligible to receive this mercy, especially the mercy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed through the Sankirtan movement. He did not discriminate. Like in this world today we live in, there's so much of discrimination. But the Lord, for him, every single soul is unique, every single soul is special, every single soul is the Lord's child. So he doesn't discriminate, and he wants to give this. He only sees goods in others, no matter how many faults we may have committed. Krishna doesn't see any fault. He only looks at good in us, and he's ready to accept us. Just as Lord Jagannath yesterday at Nalin Prabhu's house, they are all standing with their arms open, They're waiting for us to come to him so that they can embrace us. So with that mood, all these disciples of Srila Prabhupada are going out and distributing this wonderful literature. And they said like 17, 18,000 books in just 3 days of Christmas marathon. And that was the beginning of what we see in the past 5 decades. How many books ISKCON has sold, many millions and millions of copies of Bhagavad Gita and all the wonderful literature that Srila Prabhupada translated so mercifully from Sanskrit, which was kind of encoded language not many could understand. He gave it in English for everybody to easily understand. Okay, so let's continue. We are reading here. So Prabhupada is in Bombay and he's getting the news of all these wonderful Sankirtan parties going out and distributing the books, and he's very, very happy, and he's sending them his best appreciation. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada's letters acknowledging the Christmas marathon and assuring the devotees that they would go back to Godhead sent the book distribution movement flying into the new year with great momentum. Devotees continued to find new ways and places to distribute books. New records were constantly topping the old, and the devotees were making still higher projections for the future. Rameshwar published in his February 1973 newsletter a letter from a college student who had read one of Srila Prabhupada's books. ISKCON's mail order office was receiving hundreds of such letters a month. Sir, a couple of weeks ago, devotees of Krishna from Denver, I understand, were here at the University of Arkansas distributing literature. One young man approached me with a hard pitch for my purchasing a copy of the Prabhupada translation of the Bhagavad Gita. I was initially quite skeptical. So many people are getting rich from selling their versions of the answer, and told him to not bother me. He insisted though, and I finally gave in. I have been reading the Gita, having not finished it yet, and have found it quite rewarding. My mind, shaped in logic and empiricism, seems to find itself barely tasting the transcendental material in the book. I discuss it with others. I find myself remembering certain passages. It has genuinely stimulated my interest, to say the least, in a way that my quite extensive readings in Christianity, Zen Buddhism, the lower forms of yoga, etc., have never succeeded in doing. In short, I think I have finally found the beginning. Rameshwara went on to beat the drum of Sankirtana. Actually, no one can properly measure the effect of our book distribution. If it was known how many books we distribute each month, we would be listed on every bestseller list in the country. For example, as many of you know, already the new Gita has outsold any other edition of the Gita ever printed. The Macmillan Company has already sold tens of thousands of copies, while we have sold over 27,000 copies ourselves since they first appeared last August. With increased monies coming into the book fund, Srila Prabhupada had approved his trustees' plan to print larger quantities of books and store them in a warehouse, making them available to the temples for distribution throughout the year. Yet, keeping up with the temple's demand for books was still difficult, even with a warehouse. Small, easy-to-sell books like Beyond Birth and Death, On the Way to Krishna, Raja Vidya, and The Perfection of Yoga were printed in tens of thousands. Distributors would go out carrying in their book bags a variety of books: Sri Ishopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as an assortment of small books, Back to Godhead magazines, and some inexpensive booklets like Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure, and On Chanting Hare Krishna. Tom Beardry was living with his wife in Santa Cruz, California. After attending a festival in Berkeley celebrating Lord Chaitanya's appearance, where he chanted all day, and after reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, he felt he should become Srila Prabhupada's disciple. He began chanting and trying to interest his wife and friends in Krishna consciousness. When a traveling party of brahmacharis arrived to start a center in Santa Cruz, he told them he wanted to join, but they were skeptical. Then one day he showed up with a shaved head and dhoti. Tom Beardry. I began going out every day with the chanting party. Then gradually I began to break away from the Kirtana party to sell small books in shopping centers. One day I came back and one of the brahmacharis, Sarvabhauma, criticized me. He asked me how many big books I had sold. I said I didn't sell any. He said, "How many did you bring with you?" I said, "I didn't have any to bring with me." "Then you are in Maya," he said. "You didn't bring any big books? How do you expect to sell them? Prabhupada wants these big books sold." So I thought to myself, gee, I must be in Maya. I said, "How do you sell these books?" He said, "You pray to Prabhupada. Prabhupada gives you the mercy." So I thought, well, that makes sense. That's how everything works in Krishna consciousness. I went to my house, I thought about it, and prayed to Prabhupada that I could sell these big books. I prayed all evening and then took rest. In the morning, I got up, and it was on my mind. So I put out one big book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, in my bag of small books. But in the course of selling the small books, I forgot about the big book. Suddenly, a lady came up to me and said, "What is that big book you have there?" Then I remembered Prabhupada and my prayers, and I said, "This is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya." I gave her the book, and she gave me $3. When I got back to the temple, I told the devotees how Prabhupada had sold a book. Pragosha. I was coming regularly to the Detroit temple for classes in the evening, and I was doing some odd work to help the devotees prepare the temple. Every night I would be painting and I would watch the devotees coming back from Sankirtan. They seemed very ecstatic and enlivened, and I was always a little curious about what they did out there that made them come back like this. I would be up on my ladder, painting and listening to them talk as they sat on the floor drinking hot milk. They would talk about how they had knocked on one man's door and this had happened and then that had happened. It was very attractive to me. After I moved into the temple and had been a devotee about a week, someone asked me if I would like to go out and try distributing books. So I went out, wearing a dhoti and tilak, and using a straightforward presentation, walking up to people, giving them a card and a book, telling them about the contents of the book, showing them Prabhupada's picture, and asking for a donation. The exhilaration I got from that was just incredible. It became extremely blissful to go out and do this. None of us could actually put a finger on why it was so ecstatic. We used to lie awake at night. All the brahmacharis stayed in one big room, and we would lie there on the floor in our sleeping bags, whispering to each other, "What did you say to the people out there?" There would be all these different conversations going on in the room at night, with the lights out and everyone talking, trying to relate how we were presenting Prabhupada's books. Jagat Dhatri Devidasi. My first service was cleaning the temple. I was cleaning the whole temple. I would be looking out the window at the men piling into the vans, getting ready for Sankirtan, and I would always think that I would really like to be doing that. Finally, our temple formed two traveling parties, one of men and one of women, and we went for the summer to distribute books in the fairs of Washington state. The men and the ladies used to have competition to see who could distribute the most. Sura. I joined Krishna Consciousness in Seattle in 1973, and they sent me out on book distribution my first day. You would always hear from LA about the letters Prabhupada was sending. Everything we heard was centered on Prabhupada's desire for his books to be distributed. It was by hearing this that newer devotees wanted to go out and be part of the Sankirtana party. We wanted to be soldiers for Prabhupada's book distribution army. We went to the Spokane Fair, and the leader of the Spokane Temple wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada requesting him to come and telling him the results of our book distribution. Then we received a reply from Prabhupada saying that he couldn't make it, but that the devotee should go to the fair and preach on his behalf. Fulfill my vision, Srila Prabhupada said, that every man and woman in the United States gets a book. That was just what we were waiting for, to get an order directly from Srila Prabhupada that this was what pleases him. Our book distribution kept increasing, and we just thought we never had so much fun before. It wasn't like austerity. Some of the devotees were thinking, well, it's really hard to go on Sankirtan. We were thinking, you must be nuts. It's the most fun thing you can do to go on Sankirtan and sell books. It was fun, not for sense gratification, but for the soul, because of our being linked in service to our spiritual master and Krishna. I appreciated it in that way, and when I first met Pragosha, I could see he was really dedicated and a true lover of Prabhupada because he was so dedicated to pleasing Prabhupada by distributing books. Pragosha. We were distributing in Santa Barbara, California. The area had been worked many times before, and the people were really puffed up. I went there with a couple of brahmacharis. One day, after trying to distribute for about 7 hours, I had only sold one book. I had never before had anything like that happen to me in my whole time as a devotee. I was really working. I never stopped. At one particular point, I just couldn't take it anymore. I tried to give a book to someone, and they just cracked off to me in a really obnoxious way. I had so much desire. I was trying so hard that when he did this, it just devastated me. I just wanted to punch the guy in the nose. All my intensity came out, and I erupted into tears. I just sat down on an old telephone pole that was lying by the street and started to cry. Then this devotee walked up and found me sitting there like I had just lost my best friend. He said, "Prabhu, what's the matter?" I said, "I don't know what's the matter. I just can't distribute books. Not one person will take a book. I've been out here for 7 hours. Do you know how many books I've distributed?" one book. Then he sat down and preached to me and put me back together. The next day, I was really trying to have a better day, and I took my book bag and just ran from one person to another all morning. Then I was showing a book to a girl, and she said she couldn't pay me with money, but that she would gladly pay me. I was young and naive, and I didn't know exactly what she was talking about for a minute. Then finally I realized. I called Hare Krishna and took the book back from her, took off my took off my wig and just bolted to another parking lot. I ran from person to person all day, praying real hard to Krishna. By the end of the day, I had distributed a large number of books. Lavangalatika Devi Dasi. When I first came to LA, Srimati told me that Srila Prabhupada had said that being in the temple all the time was Maya. Prabhupada wanted us to go out and distribute back to Godheads door to door. I learned from the other devotees how to distribute books. There were so many experienced devotees who knew how, so I just followed in their footsteps. I would say that I would say what they would say and do what they would do. Then it became easy. When a person took a book and gave a donation, I could see it was Lord Chaitanya acting. I could see that everything was working under the direction of Krishna's internal energy. Tom Beardry had moved from Santa Cruz to Los Angeles, and by associating with devotees like Rameshwar and other book distributors, he soon became a leader. He was initiated in June 1972 and received the name Tripurari Das. Every day, he would go to a supermarket parking lot near the temple and sell a couple hundred copies of Easy Journey to Other Planets. One evening at the University of California at Long Beach, he and a few other book distributors dropped in on a lecture given by a popular yoga leader, Rameshwar. I remember when they came back. It was the middle of Bhagavad Gita class, and I was giving the class in the temple room. All of a sudden, the door burst open, and they were standing there. Tripurari was in his street clothes, and the girls were in their saris. They just ran into the temple. You could see that something very special had taken place because their faces were glowing. They couldn't even speak. They were dazed or stunned. The whole temple was anxious to hear the news. So I quickly finished the class. Then Tripurari told us that he had just distributed 17 Bhagavad Gitas, the full, hardbound, unabridged Bhagavad Gitas, in 2 hours. Leela Shakti had distributed 13, Vrindavan had distributed 11, Tilaka had distributed 11, and Makhanalal had distributed 9. Nothing like this had ever happened, had ever been done before. We were all completely astonished that anyone could sell so many big books like that. One morning, a few days later, Tripurari was driving down the San Diego freeway to go on a traveling Sankirtan when he saw the sign for the Los Angeles airport and spontaneously decided to try it. After selling a dozen big books that day, he realized the airport was wonderful for book distribution. He started going out regularly to the airport and was soon distributing 30 to 40 books a day, sometimes giving individuals as many as 6 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam at once. April 11, 1973. Srila Prabhupada flew from New York to LA, and a crowd of loving devotees greeted him. Tripurari. Prabhupada was arriving at 2 in the afternoon, and all the devotees were going to meet him. But it was also Easter weekend and a big day for book distribution at the airport. At that time, I was the only one working the airport. I was doing rather well and had sold about 30 books by 1:30. Then I changed into my dhoti and walked over to the arrivals area to meet His Divine Grace. When he entered the terminal building, he looked at me and smiled, and I melted in ecstasy. We had kirtan all the way down the stairs, and when we got outside, all the devotees were going back to the temple. Then I thought, what business do I have going back to the temple and chanting with all the devotees? My business is to stay out and distribute the books. That is my service to Prabhupada. So I was the only one who didn't return to the temple. I stayed and distributed 67 books. When I got back, I found that Karandara had told Prabhupada about me and how I had been distributing books. When I heard that, I became very enthusiastic and continued to distribute books every day that week. In Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada took his morning walks either at the shore of the Pacific Ocean or in Cheviot Hills Park. Every morning, a few disciples would join him, as well as Thaudam Singh, a PhD candidate in organic chemistry at the University of California. Srila Prabhupada would regularly discuss with Dr. Singh the scientific theory of lives originating from matter. Day after day, Prabhupada would expose Darwin's theory as foolish and unscientific. The sun would just be appearing on the horizon as Prabhupada and a small group of disciples walked. The air would be chilly, and Srila Prabhupada would wear his hooded saffron overcoat while his disciples, wearing sweaters or wool chadars, followed him, listening and asking questions. Most of the conversation, however, would be between Prabhupada and Dr. Singh, who played the role of a materialistic scientist. Dr. Singh would present atheistic arguments, and Srila Prabhupada would defeat them with scripture and logic. I say to the scientists, Prabhupada said, if life originated from chemicals and if your science is so advanced, then why can't you create life biochemically in your laboratories? On one of these morning walks, the older devotees introduced Rameshwar to Prabhupada, and at the devotee's request, Rameshwar began telling Srila Prabhupada about book distribution. He mentioned that sometimes the distributors would meet impersonalists and convince them to buy a copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srila Prabhupada stopped and turned gravely to Rameshwar. What do you say to them? He asked. Rameshwar told Prabhupada some of his techniques for selling a book. After a few moments, Prabhupada said, our men need to study our books also. On the morning, Tripurari accompanied Prabhupada on his walk. Prabhupada said little as they walked up and down the beach. Only when they were walking back toward the car did one of the devotees mention, Prabhupada, Tripurari is here. Prabhupada turned and smiled. Ah, how is the book distribution going? He asked. This was Tripurari's first time to speak directly with his spiritual master, and he wanted to say many things at once. In nervous enthusiasm, he began blurting out his realizations. Prabhupada interrupted. This is the best service for humanity. And he quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, there will never be a devotee more dear to me than he who preaches this message. With the exception of Rameshwar's and Tripurari's brief encounters with Prabhupada, none of the book distributors in Los Angeles had any personal exchanges or meetings with their spiritual master. But the closeness of the relationship with him was not dependent on physical proximity. Tripurari. My association with Srila Prabhupada was always more or less in separation and in the field. While many of the older devotees were trained personally by Prabhupada, I never got that training. I was trained by Srila Prabhupada more from within my own heart. I think that's the case with all of our book distributors. They have a very intimate sense of feeling for Prabhupada, but they never had much personal contact. Their intimacy and real sense of knowing Prabhupada very closely was because of that service which Prabhupada said was his life and soul, seeing that the books went out. Srila Prabhupada liked to sit in his garden with its roses, jasmine, azaleas, honeysuckle, mint, silver lace wine, marigolds, and banana trees, and he liked the sound of the fountain. The small compound with its lawn, flowers, bushes, and seat for Srila Prabhupada was surrounded by high cinder block walls. When Prabhupada received special guests, the devotees would bring chairs for them, but Prabhupada's disciples would always sit on thin mats on the lawn and look up at Srila Prabhupada on his elevated seat. The neighborhood was quieter and more peaceful in the evening, and Prabhupada could hear the kirtan in the temple and the cars passing along Venice Boulevard. Men's shouts from the nearby karate school were a disturbance Prabhupada had come to tolerate. For an hour or more, Prabhupada would sit listening to reading from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while around him on the grass, sharing the transcendental moment, sat his disciples. Prabhupada was fully satisfied to hear Krishna Leela, and he would sit erect, head held high, in a meditative mood. It was only an informal group, but his presence made the occasion very special, momentous. From time to time, he would interrupt the reader to comment. Night would fall, and he would end the reading and leave the garden, walking on the gravel path, past the main temple building and up to his second floor suite. Srila Prabhupada so much liked his Los Angeles garden that he decided he wanted one like it at his Mayapur headquarters. Okay. Okay, we'll pause here and we'll continue here tomorrow. Yes, wonderful reflections of all the devotees going out on Sankirtan party in the streets, because that is the Yuga Dharma that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established. Sankirtan, chanting in the streets, and just making everybody around, not just humans, but all living entities, whether they in the spirit souls in the form of different bodies, whether they're animals, insects, even grass and trees outside. Everybody gets benefited when we do Sankirtan outside. So, chanting and book distribution. And yeah, we see how Prabhupada was happy. And he also said very instructively that our devotees should also read our books, right? So yeah, reading and distributing, both are important. So only when we read, we will be able to stay fixed. Otherwise, sometimes, yeah, Krishna will also test, like the devotee was saying. He was trying his hard best to sell, but in 7 hours he had only distributed one book. And so sometimes those kind of tests will also come. So if we are not prepared ourselves, if we have not read, if we don't understand the philosophy, if we don't understand the instruction of what Krishna is saying, what our acharyas are saying, then we may very easily become diverted, or we may lose hope. But we see, because they are sincere, yeah, the other devotee came, and then he kind of showed the light, or he uh, bridged with enthusiasm. He put the tide and bridge of enthusiasm again for the devotee. So like that, we have to stay in the association of devotees. Um, I was remembering also, like Prabhupada would say, right, when Prabhupada was in London, it doesn't matter if he came back at 1:30. He wanted the disciples. When he came, he could wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock, 4:30, and be available at Mangalarti. He expected everybody to be available for Mangalarti, right? So that was the standards Prabhupada wanted. It was not, yes, distributing the books is one thing, but there should also be a good balance, right? So Prabhupada was very, very particular about morning sadhana, and so were many of our current acharyas are. I remember once my Guru Maharaj, I was reading in another book recently, and he was mentioning in the Delhi temple, once he was walking by, it was night, almost 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and he saw light was on, and there are some devotees sitting and talking. So he asked one of the disciples, "What's going on there?" And then he said, "Oh, there are a lot of brahmacharis. They're having a good discussion from the literatures. They're having some kind of seminar and discussion going on." And then Guru Maharaj told, "We should not keep all these young devotees up so late." So that basically what he was saying is that yeah, there's a time to go to bed. Like when Srila Prabhupada, he would go to bed by 9:10, right? But then he would wake up at 1 a.m. and continue his. Of course, Prabhupada was Prabhupada, but we cannot be like him. But the point is that yeah, we have to have regulated sleep. So it's not like we are up until 1, 2, and then we expect that we'll wake up at 4. That is humanly not possible. So we also have to balance our life in a way such that because starting our day in with morning sadhana is the best way to purify us. So that is the best form of austerity that we can do, and that austerity attracts the mercy of the acharyas of the Lord. As we again, when we are reading all this, we also have to be mindful that, like Prabhupada was saying a couple of days ago, we have to see which ashram we are in. So yes, brahmacharis, that is their whole day duty. Grihasthas, we have so many other duties. So all the acharyas that I've heard from many of acharyas have said, you do you do morning 2 hours of sadhana, you do your reading in the morning, right? Like Prabhupada also saying, do morning reading, you do one evening reading, that is sufficient. And then, of course, whatever time we have in between, we can leverage in other services. Whatever service, again, book distribution is one of the best service, which is very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. But there are so many services, and so many of us, we are all parts and parcels of our acharyas. We are instruments of Srila Prabhupada. So it was good to see yesterday. We had so many, such a nice congregation at Narayan Prabhu and Pragya Mataji's home, and a nice program. Right, some devotees were helping with prasadam cooking. Some devotees helping with making the ghee wicks for the diyas to offer to the Lord. Some devotees were helping with engaging newer people who had come there, encouraging them, inspiring them. Some people were, um, helping the kids, right? So again, we are all here to serve in whatever capacity we can. Each and every service is equally important, and we are all like the mouth right now for Srila Prabhupada. Even after he has left, his books are doing that preaching, but we are serving as his instruments. So each one of us is unique. Each one of us is special. We have to see what our skills are that we can engage in the service of Srila Prabhupada. So that should be our mood, and we will get that purity and we will get the mercy when we ourselves are pure in our sadhana. So that should be very, very important to take like a point that we should take home. So thank you for your kind association. Anybody else would like to share anything from today's reading or from your reflections, realizations so far in this week 1 of Kartik? Kartik Prabhu, your name itself personifies Kartik. We were talking about
Uh,
you. Kamal Krishna Prabhu was mentioning the story of how, how you met us at the
yeah,
movie, and then how you
yeah.
continued.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Um, so yesterday we went to the new Vrindavan. So it was a wonderful experience, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, very nice. Yeah, we had a lot of devotees who went from Cincinnati, I think yesterday.
Yeah, we met there. Yeah, there were a lot of devotees from Cincinnati. Yes.
Yes, yes. Nice. Very nice to hear that you were able to be in the Dham in this month of Kartik. It's very, very auspicious, and you're very, very fortunate, yes, that you have the mercy. That means that you could go to New Vrindavan in this month of Kartik. So
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else would like to say anything? Nalin Prabhu, anything? One or two things from the program yesterday. Nalin Prabhu or Pragyan Mataji. Thank you for hosting
Yeah,
such a nice
sure
program.
thing, bro. No, that is nothing. Thanks for us. It is God's mercy that we were able to manage it by the help of all your, support. So we are thankful to God and all the devotees and this association. Yeah, in Kartik Mas, what we understood is like, as Srila Prabhupada said, how much we are putting the ghee and water in a fire, that depends. So in Kartik Mas, if we put more ghee, then it will be counted as, 100 times of that ghee, right? So we should keep adding this ghee or put this ghee in the fire so that no need to put water more in the fire. That's what I can say. So we have to have good association, good trading, and understanding daily, learning daily, and implementing daily. That is what I can say.
Yeah, this is Sankirtan Yagya. We're mixing Sankirtan Yagya with ghee. It's like, yeah, you're offering ghee into the Sankirtan Yagya that we are doing by singing Damodar Ashtakam, by singing the prayers. Yes, thank you for such a nice program and very wonderful prasadam. All Pragyan Mataji, thank you for such nice prasadam, and all the Matajis who brought and served to all the devotees. Yeah, thank you so much. Vishwanath Prabhu, anything? I know you're usually quiet in the, in the morning, but I know you'll be leaving us tomorrow, so we'll miss your association on the call. Anything you'd like to share, Vishwanath Prabhu? Maybe away. Okay. All right. So then we'll pause here. Hopefully, we will. Yeah, I think he said he'll be back by November first week or November 2nd. So we'll have his association again. But we will see you all tomorrow morning for our Japa Sangha, and hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day, absorbed in meditation, absorbed in the thoughts and memories of our acharyas and also of the Lord as we go through our day. So with that, we'll end with Vaishnav Pranam prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, कार्तिक मास महोत्सव की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.